Hey guys, welcome to this video. On this video, we are going to be reviewing fractions. So we're going to go ahead and start with fractions, then we'll move to equivalent fractions. We'll see how to represent fractions in a number line. We'll talk about how to compare fractions. And finally, we're going to talk about fractions as a part of a group. Then the last part of the video, it's an independent practice that you'll be working on. So let's go ahead and move to the first section. So a fraction is a part of a whole. That means when you get a whole, you split that whole into equal parts, and then each part of that whole, it's a fraction. In this case, in this bar, the bar is split in 4 equal parts. Only one of the parts is shaded. Then this represents 1/4. And it's also called a unit fraction. So a unit fraction represents one part of a whole. So whenever you see a numerator 1, you know that's a unit fraction. It can go smaller than that. So if you look at this other example, we got a whole. This time it could be a pizza if you want it to be. And then it's split in 8 equal parts, which I only have 3 parts shaded, which represents 3/8 of this whole, 3/8 of the pizza. So that's a quite simple concept. Now we're going to move to the concept of equivalent fractions. Remember, an equivalent fraction represents the same quantity, but in a different number of parts. And what does that mean? If you have 1/4 of a pizza, so there's the whole pizza, 1/4 is what's shaded. If you take that fourth and you split it in 2 equal parts, and then you do the same with each part, you're going to have a total of 8 parts. But if you only shade 2 of those parts, then you'll have the same quantity as 1/4. 1/4, it's equivalent to 2/8. A quick way to check this is using the multiplication strategy. When I multiply numerator and denominator by the same factor, then I'm going to get an equivalent fraction. I can multiply 1 times 2 to get 2, or 4 times 2 to get 8. And I can do that with any factor I want. So let's say I want to use number 4, then I'll multiply 1 times 4, that will give me 4, and 4 times 4 will give me 16. So 4/16 would be equivalent to 1/4 as well. And then I can create as many equivalent fractions as I want because numbers are infinite. Now, I can also use the division strategy, which means I'm going to take these smaller parts and I'm going to try to make them into bigger parts. So if I divide 2 by 2, I'm going to get 1. And if I divide 8 by 2, I'm going to get 4. So that's another way to check equivalent fractions using the division method. It's important to remember, guys, when you have a larger number of equal parts, that means those parts are smaller. So if you see here, if you only have 4 equal parts, those are big parts. But if you got 8 equal parts, you got a larger number of parts, but those parts are smaller. Let's move now to how to represent fractions in a number line. So in a number line, we are representing quantities. If you look at the number line at the top, you go from 0 to 1, which means that's 1 whole. If you see this circle in the middle, it's exactly 1/2. 1/2 of that whole. Then it's easy to see if you jump from 0 to 1/2, that's 1/2 of a whole. If you jump from here to 1, that means you have 2 halves, which is equivalent to 1 whole. If we move to the number line below, you have 2 wholes this time. You see from 0 to 1, that's one whole. From 1 to 2, that's a different whole. So we're talking about two wholes in this number line. And I'm going to talk about splitting each whole in 3 equal parts. So if I'm going to use only this whole, I have 1/3, 2/3, 3/3, which are equivalent to 1. I have all the parts. So the red dot here is showing 2/3 of a whole. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move to the part of comparing fractions. So when we compare fractions, we are determining which fraction is greater, less, or if maybe those fractions are equivalent. So in this example, we have 2/8 and 3/4. If you look at the bars right here, which are equal size, one of the bars is split in 4 equal parts. 3 bars are shaded, so then I am representing 3/4. The bar right here, it's got 8 equal parts. 2 parts are shaded, which represents 2/8. Now, if you compare the two bars, it's easy to see that 3/4 it's a greater quantity than 2/8. Then I can say 2/8 are less than 3/4. Or I can read it backwards and go 3/4 are greater than 2/8. When comparing fractions, remember to use a benchmark. The benchmark is that fraction less or more than 1/2? Or which fraction is closer to be a whole? If you look again at the models, 3/4 are closer to be a whole than 2/8 is. Important thing to remember. These two models represent 1/2, but I'm not going to use them to compare because they are different size. If I have different size models, they do not represent the same quantity. They both represent 1/2, but I am not going to compare them because this is greater. It's got a bigger size than this one right here. So I'm going to go now to fractions as a part of a group. So a fraction can also be represented as a part of a group. In this example, I tried to draw 6 apples. So I'm going to ask for your imagination, and these 6 circles, these 6 red circles represent 6 apples. Then the bar right here represents 2 equal groups. So technically what I'm saying is that my whole right now is the 6 apples. Whenever I have the 6 apples, I have my whole. If I put those 6 apples in 2 equal groups, I can say that 1/2 of 6 is 3. 1, 2, 3. I have 2 equal groups, 3 apples in each group. Then 1/2 of 6 equals 3. If I want to try to find 2/3 of 6, then I'm going to take my whole, the 6 apples. I'm going to split them in 3 equal groups. By basic division, you know you're going to put 2 in each group. Then this is 1/3 of 6, which is 1 and 2. But I need 2/3, so I'm going to take 1, 2, 3, 4. Then 2/3 of 6 equals 4. So 4 apples represent 2/3 of my whole, which is 6 apples in this example. Alright guys, so that was a very fast review of fractions, and now it's time for you to practice. I'm going to read the instructions for these activities, and once I'm done, I want you to pause the video, go get paper and pencil, dry eraser and marker, anything that works best for you, and work on this. Okay? Look at the number line below and think, what letter represents the fraction 2/8? Number 2 is asking you to compare the following fractions using greater than, less than, or equal or equivalent to. 1/6 to 3/18, 6/13 to 7/10, 10/100 to 8/10, 4/16 to 2/9. Number 3 is going to ask you to find the answer to the following parts of a group. 1/2 of 36, 2/4 of 40, 3/5 of 15, and finally, you have to find the answer to this word problem. Carla has organized 3/8 of her toys in a basket. There are 21 toys in the basket now. How many toys does she have total? So click pause right now, or if you need to go back and check the explanations again before finding your answers, that's okay. Once you do that and you get back to this part of the video, pause it. Okay? I'm going to count to 3 and you pause it. 1, 2, 3. All right. I am back. I trust that you worked on this individually, testing your knowledge on fractions. Let's go ahead and discuss the correct answers. Look at the number line below and think, what letter represents the fraction 2/8? Is it A, B, or C? The correct answer is A. Letter A represents the fraction 2/8. If you look at the number line from 0 to 1, it's 1 whole. That whole is split in 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts, which means each one of these parts is 1/4. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and then 4/4 will give me a whole. And you probably be thinking, I'm looking for 2/8, not 1/4. If you remember the explanation of equivalent fractions, 1/4 is the same quantity as 2/8. Why can it not be B? If you're thinking because B, it's equivalent to 1/2, that's the correct answer. 1/4, 2/4, which are equivalent to 1/2. And we're looking for 2/8. And it cannot be C, because C represents 2 wholes. And let's move to the second part of this activity, comparing the following fractions. 1/6 to 3/18. Those two fractions are equivalent. You can take the multiplication method or the division method. 1 times 3 equals 3, 6 times 3 equals 18. Same quantity, different number of parts. So 1/6 is equivalent to 3/18. 6/13 is less than 7/10, or 7/10 is greater than 6/13. If you think about the benchmark, 7/10 is closer to be a whole than 6/13 is. 10/100 is, or 10/100 are greater, less, or equal to 8/10. So 10 hundredths are less than 8/10. If you try to use the division method, 10 hundredths are equivalent to 1/10. And 8/10 is greater than 1/10. Finally, 4/16 and 2/9. So 4/16 is greater than 2/9. Let's move to finding the answer of the parts of a group. So 1/2 of 36. 1/2 of 36 is equivalent to 18. You're taking your 36 and you're splitting those objects, those numbers, those parts of that group into 2 equal groups. So you'll put 18 in each group. 1/2 of 36 is equal to 18. 2/4 of 40 are equivalent to 20. If you think about 1/4 of 40, if you split 40 objects in 4 equal groups, you're going to put 10 objects in each group. If you take 2 of those groups, you're going to get a total of 20. So 2/4 of 40 are 20. Also, 2/4 are equivalent to 1/2, and 1/2 of 40 will be, of course, 20. And finally, 3/5 of 15. 3/5 of 15 is equivalent to 9. Again, if you take 15 objects, you put them in 5 equal groups, you're going to put 3 objects in each group. And if you take 3 of those groups, you're going to get 9. So 3/5 of 15 is 9. Finally, Carla has organized 3/8 of her toys in a basket. There are 21 toys in the basket now. How many toys does she have total? So she has a total of 56 toys. We're going to see how is this correct. So 56 toys in 8 equal groups. Each group is going to have 7 toys. And if the problem says she's got 21 toys, so 3 times 7, 21. And then that gives us the answer of 56 toys. When she's got 8/8 of her toys, she's got a total of 56 toys. Alright guys, I hope that this was useful. I hope that you got the answers. If you still have questions or you need more explanations, please take notes, bring them to our one-on-one, and I'm looking forward to work with you and help you in fractions. This was again a quick reviewing of fractions. Bye-bye. See you on, well, I won't see you, but I'm looking forward for you to see my new video.